We're gonna have some cool things happening later on. So first of all, I'd like to go around the room like we always did and introduce yourself. Any first timers here that has not attended this kind of stuff before? Welcome guys. Thank you. So first of all, we're gonna do is that we're gonna do introduction. Just state your name, your organization if you have any. And basically just say something that you wish that you can see associations that offer you that the other associations have not done it for you. So I'll start. I'm Brian Archer, my company is Galaxy UAV, and I wish that we have an association that can offer group insurance discounts for commercial operations. And I think we'll go around this way, so you're next, Ken.
Kenneth Lindsay. I live in Allen. I retired from the fire department after 35 years. Brian actually got me involved in this drone business and got my part 107. I got many air aviation licenses, excuse me. But I only hope to get involved for the networking. Hopefully I can get that organization.
Okay, my name is Craig Lovell. I'm CLL Video Services Incorporated. Did video for 24 years, started doing still photography about 9 years ago, blending them all together. And last June I got my certificate for pilot and got me in the air, trying to get started. Mainly do real estate and cinematographic, movies, that sort of thing.
My name is Warren Johnson. I'm a website developer, coder, turned real estate investor, turned videographer, if that makes any sense. My company is AUVSI Investor LLC. I'm a cinematographer. I shot weddings. I shoot classic standalone video, run and gun stuff. And I got into the drone because I'm a real estate investing company. And I got a lot of realtors were looking for people to film their houses. So I got into that and kind of blended that in with my cinematography aspiration. So I'm also a Part 107 holder, and that's just about it. Thanks.
I'm David Adams. I'm semi-retired. I worked in the industrial gas industry. I'm an engineer, MBA, and PMP, so I have a lot of skills I can bring hopefully to the group. I'm a private pilot. Also a photographer, so I do a photography business, and I got involved in drones to have the tripod in the sky, basically, for luxury real estate and construction. One of the things I would like to help, or I wish a group would do, is help in the community service. I was mentioning to Warren, I was in New Orleans just 2 weeks ago over Jackson Square, crowded, and I see an Inspire fly right over there, and probably didn't have all the right waivers. And I think that's one of the things we worry as drone pilots, is that they're going to do something about that, and they're going to put a lot of restrictions on people who do have the Part 107, which I do have. And hopefully a group like ours could maybe represent the positive of what drone pilots do. I think a lot of things you published on some of the Facebook pages does do it, but I don't think it goes far enough.
Okay.
I'm Mike Wright, Wright Architects, been in business 34 years, and recently got my Part 107 and want to work with other Part 107 pilots. I'm Klaus Dannenberg. I'm retired. I live up in Denton. I used to be a chief engineer for a couple of Lockheed UAV programs in the 80s and early 90s. Worked on Global Hawk when it was still DARPA before it became Global Hawk. And I love the technology, trying to figure out if there's something I can contribute, I can do here that would be worth the drive down, or if there's something that would be beneficial to me, make it worth the drive down.
My name is Christopher Jenseth. I own Skycraft APV. I've been in the business for almost 8 years now, and I'd like to see buying power for, or softwares, getting discounts on softwares or other business services.
Hello, my name is Adrian Doko, owner of Imperial Aerial, certified SUAS thermographer through FLIR, also do structural inspections. What I'd like to get out this organization is what's been hindering us service providers for a while now is the authorization debacle through the FAA. A lot of our clients aren't willing to wait 90 days, and hopefully with the new LANS system being in place April 30th, my problems should be resolved. Thank you.
Hi, Rick Yates, 107, and a photography business for about 30 years now. And I agree with what this gentleman just said. We need some perks for being a member. The webinars are really the only takeaway I've seen since I've been a member, other than meeting other members and seeing what's going on. But for the most part, it's still kind of just, here we are. I got 107. That's kind of, where the chapter is.
That was cheap.
Well, you asked.
My name is Kyle Hardman. I'm an adjunct instructor at Tarrant County College where I teach UAS studies. I'm a FAA certified instructor as well as a Part 107 holder. I'm interested in public education and awareness.
I'm Mark Whitty. I work for AUVSI Associates, a multidisciplined engineering firm based in Richardson. We don't have anyone in-house currently doing own flights, but I have my Part 107 and I'm preparing myself to step into that role.
I'm Lawrence Kirk. I have a long avionics background and aircraft maintenance background, and I'm looking to get into UAVs as a second career. Just see where that takes me. There's some ideas I have, but with the restrictions of Part 107, the altitude restrictions and stuff like that, I'm going to be kind of limited. I'm going to have to move into a different class of remotely operated vehicles. But that's what I'm first steps. Just getting started on this.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Myron Pullum, and my first time here. I'm a retired military air traffic controller. My last assignment was over at the FAA in the Airspace Management Office, and I took the course like some of you in that initial course that TCC did on UAS. I mean, area before the FAA decided what they were going to do. So I'm also an adjunct professor over at adjunct faculty over at TCC in UTA. I'm interested in commercialization.
Hi, I'm Thomas Costley. I'm a 20-plus year news firm journalist. I've done helicopter stuff for probably 8 years. I've recently got into drone stuff, and I do drone work for WFAA here in Dallas. I love flying and shooting video from the air. I also love low altitude stuff and just making things look just freaking awesome. And I'm totally just want to know everything. I want to know FLIR stuff. I want to do mapping. I want to do 3D maps. I want to do it all. But I'm still just trying to, take care of the basics, go at the proper pace. I'm part of the North Texas Drone Users Group, and we go fly, and it's just a great time. But I try to fly today. I'm just a nerd like that. So anyway, I'm just wanting information, networking, I'm all about it, and I'm just glad to be here. I'm a first timer. This is the first time at this table. So.
Sir, gentlemen.
Hi, my name is Osato Osamege. I'm the CEO for Ubiquity Interface. We are mainly involved in doing research with National Science Foundation. We just completed phase 1 of using fuel cell liquid, both liquid and solid fuel for small UAV, because the limited flight is about 15 to 20 to 30 hours. It doesn't quite think we want to do real work, all type of application for drones. So we are trying to extend flight time to about 5 hours for small drones. That's about it. I'm an engineer, I also have an MBA. My focus here, I've been talking to you for some time now. Anytime I come to meeting, maybe we need to do some research. Prior to starting my company about 4 years ago, I was a dean of research in university, and we do a lot of, there's a lot of money out there by National Science Foundation, by DOD. All you need to do is have a non-profit status or for profit, either way, to do research, and you get a lot of millions of dollars to support your effort. So that's my call here. And one other thing, I'm also interested in open source pilot training for UAV.
Maybe we can get a government grant for the funds for our chapter, right? So next will be, do you want to do introduction now? Jonathan?
Molly got her camera around.
I know Molly loves doing that, so I'll go
Okay.
to give her a few minutes to compose herself. My name is Jonathan Jacobs. I'm the founder of DroneAcademy.com. It's a website focused. Right now we do heavily into Part 107 training, but we are focused on the engineering side, so how to build your own drones, so hobbyist work, as well as advocacy for, right now what I'm really focused on is industry advocacy. The FAA has kind of been apparent that they're not willing to or unable to enforce the rules that they've imposed. And so what I've been focused on lately is education for the clients to let them know what they should be looking for. It's kind of ties in with a little bit of what the Trusted Operator Program is, but focusing on informing and educating the end users as to what they should be asking for, what they should be looking for. That's been my big focus over the past few months. But overall, just education and advocacy.
So anybody else, ma'am? So we're basically introducing ourselves, just your name, and if there's anything that this group can help your drone endeavors, we'd like to hear that. So.
My name is Betty Johnson. I've been flying a drone now for maybe about a couple of years. Had my license for a year, and actually trying to pretty much get into building a company with it, or either get into working with it. I've done some inspections, and basically beyond that, I've been doing actually just regular video footage and photography of pretty sites that I see, and working with the software. So really just trying to learn anything I can and actually get into the system pretty much.
All right, well, thank you everyone for speaking up. So just a brief background before we hand it over to Tracy. A while back I sent a survey out to the chapter, drone user group on Facebook, any connections that I have regarding the drones, and I have the survey results I can go over later on, but just wanted to touch up briefly is that, originally I wasn't sure, I and a few other colleagues, that we were going to be able to have an air domain focused group. So as you guys know, AUVSI is all three domains, air, land, sea, surface, subsurface. So, and their members are very diverse. I, including many of you guys, are air domain focused. We're about UAVs, drones, especially commercial stuff, as we discussed. So we just wanted to have an air focused group that are doing activities for us. So I guess once I contacted the headquarters, Tracy, including the member affairs staff people, and they kind of reached back to me and said, hey, why don't we just try to collaborate with the Remote Pilots Council, which they launched 2 years, has it been, or a year and a half, right?
8 months.
Right. Which, when I saw it, it was great, but we just haven't seen any action. So that was the original, initiation that I had. So, but anyway, we will see how this is going to work out going forward. Hopefully, we will have some budget they can, send our way to have these kind of events, because it takes money to do things. Flying events, meetings, this meeting costs. If we want to have food, catering, that'll be even more. I don't know about you guys. I've been to different professional associations. You know what they do? They meet at like a Cowboys golf club for luncheons. It costs about $20 each time. That's the kind of professional level that I envision that we could have, but it comes with sponsorship money. So we will see what we can do going forward. So Tracy is here to talk about the latest efforts, and so if you have your USB drive, we are good to go.
There's a lot of them, so.
Here's your clicker. You know what this is.
Get it there. Oh, well, thank you very much for having me. I actually came down from Washington, D.C. to speak at Bell Helicopters about next generation pilot training and the importance of certification, and also tomorrow at the Lonestar UAV test site, also about training and certification. I guess I didn't have the chance to introduce myself, so it's my turn now. My name is Tracy Lam. I'm the Vice President of Regulatory and Safety Affairs at AUVSI. I'm also the Chief Pilot of the newly formed Remote Pilot Council. A little bit of background about that. The Remote Pilot Council only did form about 8 months ago, just before I joined AUVSI. And we launched with several initiatives and several goals. And one of those goals was to actually start a certification program so that new remote pilots could have something that they could hang their hat on to aspire to, and also that the end users of drone-enabled services, your customers, know what they're going to get. So the presentation today is actually going to focus on just one initiative at the moment, and then, because I don't want to follow this presentation to the letter, because after hearing all of your introductions and making notes about what you need and what you have, I actually think that we already have those things in place. It's almost like some memberships that you have. A lot of people sign up for memberships in different associations, but don't actually learn and take advantage of the full potential of that association. And I have been guilty of that in the past as well. So we'll go through that at the end. So I also want to talk about the current state of the industry and what it looks like at the moment. You all know the economic impact, but we have a slide or two on the economic impact. And also return on investment. Obviously, flying a drone commercially is what you want to aspire to, but how do you get a return on investment? How do you get the waivers through fast enough to keep your clients happy and your customers happy? And secondly, the power to advocate. You can advocate as much as you like, but if you don't have substance behind you, you're wasting your time. So hence the power to certificate. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll have a look at what's next. So a little bit about AUVSI. I know some of you are not members yet. I look forward to welcoming you into the fold as members. AUVSI is actually, as you know, the world's largest non-for-profit not only in unmanned systems aircraft, but also anything that's unmanned. Driverless cars, crawlers on the ground, maritime. So anything you can think of that is unmanned or automated, AUVSI represents and advocates on the Hill for everything unmanned. That's a very powerful voice because, as you can imagine, all we care about in this room today is unmanned aircraft. But if we can have a bigger voice for the whole industry, it benefits all of us. So we have 7,500 members currently, and they're actually spread over different countries. We have sister chapters and sister associations in Australia, Israel, Singapore, the United Kingdom, and also Canada. That's a big reach, especially when you consider some of the initiatives that we're trying to launch. So the logo that you see there, the top operator, I'm going to talk to you about the Trusted Operator Program, or the Top Operator Program today, which was launched by the AUVSI Remote Council. We actually started working on that in November, and it will be finished on the 20th of this month. So I'll bring you the update on that. So AUVSI's priorities and policy, as you can see, we actually, unless you have safe operations. So I'm hearing we want waivers, we want our waivers faster. We want special permissions to fly BVLOS over people near this airport. Why have I waited so long for my waiver? I can tell you right now it comes down to one word, and that's safety. The organisations that are getting their waivers fast, and sometimes in many cases faster than most people, it's in every time because they put forward a very solid risk-based assessment and safety case to do so. And we work very closely with the FAA to try to help an outreach and educate the community. The Trusted Operator Program is one of those vehicles to do that. So obviously we really want to work with the development of the UTM, the Unmanned Systems Traffic Management. We work very closely and help obviously with our members such as AirMap, who are developing the LANCE project, and I see nodding heads. LANCE is going to be a key enabler for us, and once that is implemented around the country, definitely you're going to see that your waivers and your permissions to fly will come through a lot more swiftly. However, does it mean anything if you're not a safe operator? No, it doesn't. Safety is the key to everything. Safety and certification. So we'll have a question time at the end, and I'm sure that you'll probably want to talk about waivers, etc., etc. The economic impact, you're all in this room for something very important. Firstly, you love to fly drones, and you love the result it gives, whether it be amazing aerial photos or incredible data that your customers are interested in analysing. The economic impact of this industry is mind-blowing. Now, these estimates were taken in a study, I believe it was 2005. The first 3 years after the study was released, they said that the UAV economic impact of utilising drones would actually be in the tune of about $13.6 billion. And they said by 2023, $82.1 billion. Now, AUVSI did this study, and the numbers, they're a little out, but they're not far from it. We've actually just commenced doing some research again, and we'll be releasing another economic report very soon, which will show further figures and the state of the industry and how that's actually coming into fruition. So you come into the industry at the perfect time. It's definitely the way of the future. It's definitely very exciting. And I don't think I have to tell you in this room the impact that drone-enabled services has had in public safety and search and rescue just recently. So that's something very huge as well, that you can all as a community start to participate in. And discussions with public safety entities and FEMA, disaster relief, they want to use this technology. They want to use drones to save lives. but they also want to do it safely. So vetting and certification is the key to that. FEMA has so many pilots who show up and say, we've got a drone, we want to help, we have a Part 107, we want to help. Well, by helping, you may indeed get in the way of some of the operators who are working with the helicopter teams and the other teams. So your good intentions can sometimes be hindered by other people who perhaps just show up and want to help, but they get in the way. So what's the key moving forward to enable FEMA and public safety agencies to help? Safety certification. That's the key moving forward. And I just messed up the thing. Okay, so how do you look at drone-enabled services around the world? You really are living in the best country in the world when it comes to wanting to get into the drone business and to make a living out of this fantastic career. Obviously, I've just realised I don't have a slide that introduces myself, but that's okay. I think you've picked up on the fact that I actually have an Australian accent. I'm from Australia. So have a look at our slide there. Australia's got $3.1 billion in estimated drone spending. That's commercial drone spending, right? Excellent. So I'm now living in the United States, and one of the reasons why I'm so happy to be here is look at the economic figures in the USA. This is the best country in the world for commercial drone operators. So to set a good example for the rest of the world is probably something that we can definitely, as a group of remote pilots, set about and have as one of our goals. And AUVSI is definitely aligned and committed to reaching out to remote pilots, hence the Remote Pilot Council, making connections, giving you networking that you requested, giving you outreach and education, giving you programs that you can actually get certified to and support the training organisations that are delivering that service. We're not getting in, AUVSI doesn't train. We're not getting into the training business. But what we do is we support the training organisations that teach, that are going to be teaching these concepts. So that said, I have a couple of engineers I heard in the room, a couple of maintenance and aircraft engineers. Okay, so they'll know some of these acronyms straight off the bat. Even if you're in the business of manufacturing, or even MRO, maintenance, repair and overhaul. I keep saying overhauls. Look at the economic potential for maintenance, repair and overhaul. It's incredible. 233 billion for production in UAVs. I've just come from Bell Helicopters down the road, who are now no longer Bell Helicopters, they're just Bell, because they are getting into unmanned in a big way. And it's the way of the future. So I think there are definitely exciting times ahead. So something very exciting happened. Obviously, you were all here when 107 took effect on the 29th of August 2016. The influx, and some people say, well, the United States were a little bit longer in establishing their UAS rules. And yes, they were. Australia established our unmanned aircraft systems rules back in 2002, shortly followed by South Africa and the United Kingdom. France came to the party late. Germany decided it was all too hard and they didn't have any at the time that I left Europe. The Netherlands have very complex UAV rules for both small and large aircraft. And believe me, translating those regulations from Dutch into English when you're trying to organise remote pilot inspections in industrial installations over in the Netherlands is very, very hard. The direct translation of chief pilot from Dutch is actually sundog. So I'm a sundog, the remote pilot council. So, these rules, the FAA, it's something that I want to impress upon you, and I can't impress upon you enough. The FAA is working very hard to really understand the best way forward for industry. The FAA has reached out to industry for assistance and help on the best way forward for this, as many of you may know. And of course, this is illustrated by the IPP, the Integrated Pilot Program. I know some of you have experienced a very long time in getting some of your permissions to fly and some of your waivers, and you make some very good points. But when the disasters happened, the FAA was actually able to process over 333 exemptions to help with disaster relief in a record short period of time. The key to getting your exemptions quickly with no delay is safety. So you all know the 107 rule, so I won't take up too much of your time, but this is currently the state of the industry at the moment with registrations. So if you have a look at that, you are finding that you've got 815,315 registrations for the hobbyists. Now, someone made a very good point. The hobbyists at the moment are usually the ones that you see on the news. They're usually the ones that come too close to an aircraft or are doing stupid things. And, you know, we have very strong outreach, like know before you fly, but it still happens. Then you've got the Model Aircraft Association people, the AMA, who model aircraft people, actually, they abide by their rules. They're a very strong community. They stick together. They have designated places to fly. They're very proud of the airmanship and the professionalism that they've cultivated in their safety culture for many, many years. And then there's the professional UAV operators like us. And we're getting to that. It's usually not the professional drone operators that are out there on YouTube causing problems. Okay, it normally is the hobbyists. So that is definitely an identified gap that the FAA is acutely aware of. At the moment, there is discussion that perhaps we need to change that. Perhaps we need 3 buckets. We need like a Part 107 light and make the hobbyists aware and educate them and get them to register, get them to have a little bit more community training to make them a responsible hobby pilot. So those are some of the things that are moving along. This is a very interesting industry. We can make it strong from our point of view, from the hobby and from the commercial community, the commercial drone community. We can step up and make ourselves professional, make ourselves safe, and that will then push the industry forward and help evolve the industry. But you are quite right with what you said earlier. There's a gap there. So we've got a lot of people out there, and the next slide actually shows you a little bit more. But having a look at this, you've got 79,131 online commercial users that have registered their drones online, and 6,007,000 who registered their drone via paper. Let's have a look to see how that translates. So you've got, obviously when Part 107 came into effect, everyone rushed to get their Part 107. That was a lot of people, Have a look at what the FAA are predicting. 20,000, so you've got there more than 530,000 people have registered their UAS since last December, and more than 20,000 have indicated that they are registering their aircraft for commercial purposes. And this is what blows me away. The FAA has projected that over 600,000 UAS could be flying for commercial purposes over the next 12 months. That's a lot of people. Now, I'm just wondering, have you seen the presentation about the Trusted Operator Program where I compare this commercial pilot market to the hamburger industry? Yes, some of you have. It always makes me hungry, and I'm getting hungry again. That slide is coming up, and I will explain myself to those of you who haven't seen the hamburger theory very soon. So look at waivers. What are the most waivers that commercial UAV pilots want to apply for? And as you can see, it's predominantly nighttime filming. You know, beautiful sunset, sunrise photos, dawn, dusk. You know, there's a lot of evening photos, beautiful lights, et cetera, et cetera. So night waivers are probably offered the most. Operations near certain airspace is also quite prevalent. But have a look at some of the waivers that you probably want that are really not getting there. Beyond visual line of sight, flights over people, flights from aircraft. What do you think is stopping a lot of Part 107s from getting these waivers?
Details.
Say
multi-million-dollar companies.
It's safety. It's safety cases. It's safety and certification. Safety is an enabler. So you know what? You have to prove that you're safe. Oh, I'm safe. Yeah, I'm really safe. Well, that sounds great, but prove it. Okay? Prove that you're safe. And the problem is that a lot of people don't know how to prove that they're safe. You can't go to the FAA and do a course on UAV risk assessment. You know, they tell you have to do it. But how do we do that? And just a little bit of a look at the exhibitions report. So aerial photography, business applications, they're the biggest ones, a bit of revenue. And of course Texas is 468, so nearly apart from California, it's the most exemptions granted. So not only are you in the best country in the world for commercial UAV operations, you're in the best state in the best country in the world, apart from California. So you've got to be happy with that as a good place to start. So we have an opportunity to unite ourselves as remote pilots here, come together, focus on how you're going to advance your businesses, and really set an example for the rest of the world. I just came from a group of helicopter pilots and helicopter operators, and I told them how fantastic it is to use a drone instead of a helicopter. Thankfully, that went down extremely well because they already know. But, industries, the stakeholders are starting to figure out the cost benefits for using unmanned systems. They no longer have to send people into dangerous locations or up ropes or at heights. And, a UAV is a hell of a lot cheaper than a helicopter. So there's a lot of argument to definitely invest in this technology. But what's something that a helicopter operation that it has compared to a commercial drone operation?
Flight endurance.
Flight endurance, yep. But something else.
Probably a history of safety and process procedures.
They have a history of safety, so they have reliability data. That's a good one. But there was the key word you used there.
Safety.
Safety. Safety cases. Safety culture. Certification. Clear, unified agreement on safety culture and safety processes and certification. We need that. We need a bit of that action. So that's what we're about. So the hamburgers, back to the hamburgers, because I know you're all getting hungry. So, I have, excuse me, I have to say to you that, becoming a Part 107 is a great achievement, and I think it really is a fantastic achievement, and I want to encourage as many people as I can to get into this business and become a remote pilot. I love the industry. However, it's not so hard to become a remote pilot that not too many people can do it, like being an Air Force pilot or a helicopter pilot. It's accessible. Would you all agree that being a Part 107 commercial UAV pilot is pretty accessible to a lot of people? So that's great. But with that, there's the other side of it. And that is, the situation at the moment is that there are so many people getting into the industry because of that fantastic economic opportunity and the ability to save lives and the ability to take amazing photographs, that a remote pilot doesn't always look like you, Brian. Brian looks like maybe this hamburger here. Whereas...
Is that with the pineapple?
That's with the pineapple. Whereas, you know, your customers don't know what they're getting. They might get that hamburger in the middle there that looks like some kind of creature from the deep with the bacon hanging off the edges. You know, there is no one unified agreement on what a remote pilot should look like, because there's no proficiency checks required. There's no flight test required. There's no currency required at this point in time. Is that? How many of you did a flight test to get your 107? No. How many of you go out there and before you do a job, you make sure that you've perhaps flown that kind of mission the week before quite a few times to make sure you get that mission right? Yeah, some of you will, because some of you understand a key thing: safety. Safety equals efficiency. So we got some amazing hamburgers out there. That is going to be great that we can all get into it, but what about your customers? What about your customers? Your customers really are looking for the end product. Data is the new oil. Data means something. They don't really care, you know, how much fun you had shooting the shot. They want the end product because that's what they're paying for. And unfortunately, you know, it doesn't always equate to the end product when you look at some of the remote pilot services that you can just pick up online and get them out there. So it's the end customer, it's the end user at the end of the day that you have to think of. So what does a good hamburger have? What should it have? If you're going to pay for a hamburger, you know, what do you want on it? The Trusted Operator Program actually was born just before I joined AUVSI. They used the trip to form the Remote Pilot Council, and they went around to most of our 32 chapters, and they took in about 8 major cities. And they asked all of the chapters at all the chapter meetings to come together. What do you want? What do you want? Very much like Brian did at the beginning of this meeting. What do you need? What do you want? What are you missing? And we wrote it all down. Every single meeting, all the minutes were produced. What do we want? What do we need? And what came out of that was, oh, hang on. Won't share that one just yet. What came out of that was, we want reliability. We want safety. We want to be respected as remote pilots. We want professionalism. But most of all, we want trust. We want trust that our customers are going to keep on using us and get good end result from using us. And we want to be safe enough that they'll call us. We want public safety teams, FEMA, when we show up to help out, that we want FEMA to say, we want you. And we want you, and we want you, because we know you're safe. Because you're a good-looking hamburger, and you look like him, you're the same hamburger, and you're the same hamburger. So we want those hamburgers.
I'm just hamburger.
Exactly. You know what? We're all having a dinner tonight. So here we are, nearly to the end of the presentation. I still haven't introduced myself because I didn't put the slide at the very beginning. Obviously, I come from an aviation background. This would have been my 22nd year in commercial aviation. I just started out as a hobby pilot. Enjoyed flying, very much like you. I want it all. I love it so much. I want to learn everything. And of course, I ended up becoming an airline pilot. I was a flight instructor for many years. I flew around the Asia Pacific flying corporate jets. I flew power line surveys, I flew freight, I flew animals, I flew newspapers. Probably my favourite things was being an instructor. I was an instructor for 11 years, really loved it. And I'm still current. I went back to Australia and did my Command Multi-Engine Instrument Rating renewal, probably my 12th renewal, and so the FAA would recognise it. So I promised them I wouldn't fly upside down all of the time. So I still fly. I was the 109th person in Australia to get the unmanned operator certificate. And one of the things that I really noticed, I guess, especially after being at the instructor's table for such a long time, if I'm going to go out there and work for an unmanned system end user, would they want me to be as professional as I was when I was flying 737s for Virgin Australia? Or do you think that my safety and my professionalism, we could let that slide a little bit, because I'm operating a drone? What do you think my customer would say? Yeah, we want a 737 pilot for a UAV budget. And we want the same intangible things when it comes to safety and professionalism and reliability and trust. Yeah, we want the same thing. And you bet, why can't we give it to them? To be professional is free. To be safe definitely makes economic sense. So that's the culture we need to start to ignite here in the commercial UAV world. Unfortunately, we need to actually realise that operating UAVs actually is a more error-producing environment than operating a 737 or a King Air or a little Cessna, whatever. 60.2%, oh God, I keep slipping. 60.2% of mishaps in highly trained military pilots operating drones is human error. Are we all highly trained military drone pilots with all that fantastic training behind us? Well, maybe one or two of us are. But the fact of the matter, if they're making mistakes, what kind of mistakes are you going to make? I can guarantee you won't be sitting at 62%. You'll definitely be, and the figures are pointing at around about 90% human error. So definitely training proficiency is something to be looking at. But it's natural to make mistakes. So I won't even tell you some of the horrible mistakes I made when I started flying drones. I stopped telling people I flew normal aircraft because they'd never fly with me. I spoke a little bit at the event this afternoon about why is it in UAV operations do humans make mistakes. And the fact of the matter is that we make, if you compare professional airline crew to professional drone crew, the mistakes are actually 300 times greater. 300 times greater. And part of the reason for that is not only because we're removed from the aircraft and we're trying to operate in our environment separated from it, is because the way we interact with all the different platforms, the technology itself can help us make mistakes. I mean, have a look at this graph here, and you may find this very interesting. This is a graph that tells you of all the air crashes since the Wright brothers started flying. And you can see here that Wright brothers started flying here, and incidentally, this does take into consideration wars and terrorism, so it's like total crashes. And you can see that, a lot of these accidents here were actually due mainly to mechanical failures and structural failures, and because they just didn't know about the environment. Like the Comet, I don't know if you guys ever knew the Comet, they had a bad design of the windows, pressurized aircraft, the engineers are all nodding their heads, pressurized aircraft, they had square windows, and when it pressurized at altitude, there was weaknesses in those square edges. So over time, the pressurization, it just cracked out, and they had explosive decompression because they didn't realise that you need round windows to cater for the pressure differential in the cabin. So structural and mechanical failures, definitely we came a long way. Obviously, that was World War II, there, if you have a look at that. And of course, then this huge dip in aircraft crashes. We didn't stop flying aircraft. We actually started flying heaps more aircraft after the Second World War. Stab in the dark at why they had a lot less crashes, generally on the way from the 40s to the 60s.
Experienced pilots.
Regulations.
That's very interesting. Regulations, maybe. Experience. So better equipment. Finally, the jet engines also meant that they could fly up and over. Improved mechanical capability and getting out of the weather and better pilot training, yes. Yeah, the accident rate went right down to the 1960s. Well, did we stop making the jet engines in the 60s? What happened? Why'd the accident rate go back up again?
More airboats?
Not too much more. Not too much more.
General aviation.
Not too much more. You know what happened here? This sharp rise, the invention of the autopilot and advanced computers and automation. Automation and complex systems. We figured it out. Don't feel scared. You're all scared now. I can just tell. Don't worry. We figured it out. Training and safety systems, it figured it all out, and obviously this dip here actually represents crew resource management training and bringing into awareness of policy and training everyone else in the organisation, because accidents don't happen just because the pilot crashes. Accidents happen because there's usually quite a few series of failures right from the boardroom to the cockpit. So training is definitely one of those. But isn't it interesting how introducing highly automated technology into something like flying, how it affects the accident rate? So that's what we're in. We are, as a commercial UAV community, we're actually in that phase where our iPads, our iPhones, the computer interfaces, you know, how many people have used geofencing and maybe fumbled something, or have a flyaway and it's because you didn't do this? How many times have you had a mishap, a crash, or a near miss with your drone because it's something that you didn't realise or hook up or sync with the iPad? Well, I know, the game honest ones are saying yes, you know. So a lot of, we are in a heavy technology-based environment with our unmanned aircraft systems. So again, safety, certification and training. So moving along, you operate in a very complex environment and you operate with very complex equipment. So, you know, below for operating around guy wires, you're operating around electromagnetic forces, vents, you're operating around structures, you're operating around power lines, you're operating around everything. And did that flicker? Yeah, that's okay. I'll go back. And I don't need to tell you what that entails. You know, it does not take much for consequential risk to happen. You might just think, oh, crash a drone, no one gets hurt, it doesn't matter. But if you crash a drone into a conductor of a transmission line, it can take out, like it did in New Zealand, 2 or 3 towns, $500,000 worth of damages, 1,000 man-hours to fix it. Safety and vetting, safety and certification. This is why organisations are quick to say, well, hang on a second, what kind of hamburger am I getting? What kind of hamburger am I getting? Am I getting a good, proficient hamburger, or am I getting that weird hamburger with the bacon everywhere? They need to know. certification and safety. So it's a great industry, lots of potential. I would love all of you to go out there and get the most potential you can out of your operations, and certainly coming to these RPC meetings as we move forward is going to enable you to do so. And yes, they're new. Brian's right. The RPC has only just started. We've already put in place the Trusted Operator Program. There is a lot more to come and a lot more engagement to be had. So, oh, my hamburger. So as you can see up there, obviously some numbers, and please, you're welcome to this slide. Reach out to Brian and he'll make sure and give you a copy. I'll send it to you. So what kind of hamburger are you? I'm going to show you something. So we basically asked the industry, what do you think a good remote pilot should look like? You know, and we asked the members, and the members came back to us and said, well, lettuce, meat, cheese and a bun equates to reliability, safety, professionalism, and above all else, trust. One thing I find very interesting is that if you were talking to a bunch of regular aviation pilots, what would you want first? Reliability or safety?
Safety.
Right, probably safety. Exactly. But that goes to show you there's a difference with the unmanned world. Safety should be at the top. But the research that we found is reliability and then safety. And of course, trust is the enabler. That's what we're trying to build. So, what do we think about certification? Interestingly enough, before I joined AUVSI, I spent 3 years after being a pilot in the world's largest testing, inspection and verification company that no one has ever heard of. 89,000 employees. I was their global manager, employed, build their UAV safety program and their certification program, and also enable teams to go out into all places around the world doing inspections using drone-enabled platforms. It was super good fun. So I do have quite a bit of knowledge about certification and safety and what the industry looks like. So if you have a look at this, operators themselves, only 13% of operators put their hand up and say, yes, certify me, audit me. I love audits. How many of you here love to be audited? Yay, no one's raising their hand. No one likes to be audited, of course. But do you like to be appreciated for the effort and the study and the proficiency? Yes, everyone would raise their hand. Have a look at this. The telcos, 13% of telcos want their operators certified. Oil and gas, 11%. Have a look at minerals and mining, 63%. Who's driving this certification? It's not the operators.
Customers.
It's the stakeholders. It's the customers. Yeah, it's the customers. This is an emerging industry. The customers are wising up to the fact that they need to cover off on their liability. They need to cover off and make sure when they bring in a team of UAV operators onto their turf to conduct a job, that those operators are going to be safe and they're going to perform well, and then, my friends, are trust. So the mining and mineral companies know this. So this is the way of the future. Certification and trust. And of course, that's what the Trusted Operator Program is all about. And I promised I wouldn't give you the same presentation, didn't I, Brian? This is a new slant on it. So the Trusted Operator Program is highly dependent on risk. So level 1, 2 and 3 certification equates to lower risk, medium risk, higher risk. And what is it all about? So from November until the 20th of this month, we have 179 of our members participating in building a document called the PCM, Protocol Certification Manual. And what is it? It's what it sounds like. It's a manual of protocols that reflect best practice, safety behaviours. They reflect standards. They reflect the way you should be operating. Each protocol is linked back to a standard. It might be a helicopter standard or a HSE standard, health and safety standard, or it might be a hazard material standard, depending on what industry, agricultural standard, depending on what industry the UAV operates in. So we've had operators from around the nation, from all different industries, putting together these protocols so that when we finish on the 20th of this month what's the date today? The 9th. So, we've got 11 days. That's it, the build is finished. That document will be compiled. It will be a valuable tool and reference, no matter whether you're a remote pilot that wants to make themselves a better remote pilot, or you're developing a training program, or you're a certification body that, like, let's say, for example, in public safety, to vet or operator program is a program that has a unified group of protocols. It's the hamburger. So the PCM is the good hamburger, and it's appropriate for no matter what you're doing. So I encourage you all to get on the AUVSI website. If you have not joined as a member, now is the perfect time to join. I have some other points I wanted to address about insurance. The Trusted Operator Program has got agreements with 2 insurance companies. So someone here mentioned, what else did someone say? They wanted, I think we mentioned the robotics database. Where do we go to find, what equipment is where, like a buyer's guide? That already exists, by the way. The Trusted Operator Program is going to be another tool that you can use. Everyone that is certified as a trusted operator, whether they're level 1, 2 or 3, goes onto our website, the AUVSI website. You will be able to find where you can get your top training. You want to find a top pilot. All of our top pilots who have done the certification will be listed on there. Talk about a buyer's guide for the stakeholders. Okay? So that's something very valuable moving forward. And, I say here, safety and sustainability, that's definitely the key. But also, if we've got the remote pilot community out there and they're safe and they're reliable and the public perception and stakeholder perception is one of trust, how powerful does that make us to be able to advocate on your behalf? So, moving forward, that's where you want to go. Thinking of the big picture, yes, getting your waivers quickly, but we need to be able to operate over people. We need to be able to operate beyond visual line of sight. We need to be able to do these things that you want to do. So in one clear, loud voice, please tell me, everyone, what is the enabler for that? It is
Safety.
And it is
Certification.
yes, absolutely. So happy right now. The IPP, I'll quickly end on this. The IPP program, this is going to be something really positive for you. This is an enabler for local governments in particular to start to make decisions with practical and efficient regulation. Why? Because we don't have data. Someone said a little bit earlier, we need to gather data. We don't have the luxury of regular aviation with 120 years of data from all those crashes. We need to start somewhere, and the IPP is a great way to start forward with all of that, to make sure that we don't have preemption in different states. If we have the knowledge and we have the data that we can share, then there's normally some good decisions that will be made. And I look forward to definitely seeing you all at Exponential. It's in Denver, Colorado. The Remote Pilot Council Summit. Damn it, I hate it when it does that. The Remote Pilot Council. Well, actually, did everyone get the day and get on the website? Because on the Wednesday, now it can go there. On the Wednesday, the Remote Pilots Council is hosting our annual summit. And there's going to be a few exciting announcements. Obviously, one of the announcements will be the fact that the top is finished, it's built and it's underway. We've got some exciting news coming with that. And a few other things. So I hope to see you all at Exponential, and I hope to see you all at the Remote Pilot Summit. That would be great. Please definitely watch this space with the Remote Pilot Council. It is new. I tell you what, we're doing really well with our first deliverable, which is the Trusted Operator Program. There are many more to come very, very quickly. So Brian is your perfect point of contact. But I have to urge you all, if we all sing in one loud voice, we're going to be more powerful in advocating and getting things done. So I urge you to join AUVSI as a member, get connected with the RPC, and I look forward to seeing you next time in Texas. So that's it. Thank you very much. Oh yes, and now you can ask questions.
The certification includes spelling?
Excuse me?
The certification includes spelling?
Includes spelling?
Right.
No, yeah. Always. You know it does spell check, it doesn't work when you use caps. Thank you.
What do you use for metrics for safety?
Well, AUVSI, one thing you have to remember, excuse me, is AUVSI doesn't do training, and we don't gather safety data.
So what do you use for metrics?
Well, we use the same aviation principle, the 5x5 risk matrix, but the metrics that are used for safety will be dependent on whatever organisation is doing their research. If they've got data, they'll use that data. AUVSI contributes and works with the UAS
One of the top level ones is incidents at major airports, and that's I think 1,800 in 2016, probably 3,000 last year. It's been doubling every year for several years. That's a very top level one, but you need something else to get there.
Yeah, that's right, and you're quite right, and that's why the IPP is very important. AUVSI is very active on the UAST, which is the equivalent of the FAA FAST team, so the unmanned safety team. And your question that you ask is the very thing that we're grappling with at the moment. The only thing we have to go on in terms of metrics is the reported accidents that the FAA and NASA have figures with. So at this point in time, our working groups in the UAST really can only use data that we have, which is not a lot of data, and the FAA and NASA will actually say at the moment, we're trying to produce metrics for safety, and largely we don't have a huge pool like manned aviation does. I mean, we draw a lot of similarities from the FAST team and our UAST. We don't have that luxury. So any metrics that we have are for military accidents. That's kind of great, but we don't have the pool of civilian UAV accidents that's huge enough to draw on. So the answer to your question is we're doing our best with the data that we have. And when I say we now, I talk about the UAST, because AUVSI is one of many participants on the FAST team. And we also participate in the ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, both the RPAS panel and also the AG, which is the advisory group. The AG is focusing on the UTM and the smaller aircraft and trying to get things like package delivery and the Uber stuff. So lower altitude UTM issues, whereas we're focusing on the higher altitude, larger unmanned stuff in the RPAS panel. So we're out there, in the thick of it, trying to bring the best information that we can to our members. But, it's like NASA. NASA's struggling with getting those figures together as well. Obviously, they've got some fantastic resources with research, but they're helping us on the UAST to, you know, refine those metrics, which is not an easy job. Yes, 3 at once. Okay, go on.
A little bit of a question, possibly a bit. Why TLP? Why are we going back to, if you're looking for respect, if you're looking for certification, why are you referring to pilots as operators? Let me ask you, do you prefer 737 operator or 737 pilot?
Well, actually, it's a good question that you make, and there's a lot of thought that went into the name Trusted Operator Program, because an operator can actually be an individual, or an operator can be a group of individuals, an organisation. Exactly. So that's the first reason we wanted it to be. And also, Trusted Operator incorporates trust, and also it also encompasses the team. So if we were to just say Trusted Pilot, but there's more to a UAV operation than just the pilot, isn't there? Sure. You've got your observer and you have your sensor operator. You know, depending on your operation, you can have 50, 100, Global Hawk. Who's the Global Hawk here? 80 people are involved with the Global Hawk project. So Trusted Operator Program was named for that reason, to be all-encompassing. Now you ask me another question, would I prefer to be called a 737 pilot or a 737 operator? You know, we actually call ourselves drivers.
When I refer to my fellow commercial pilots as bus driver,
Yeah, we just driver.
They take some offense to it sometimes, but okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay. Well,
you know,
I'm glad you have that kind of humility, and that's great.
Often we say,
But
what are you driving?
we spent that was one of the early things that was driven out of Part 107, as you're probably aware. We drove the word operator out of it. And I think for good reason. That when I say pilot, especially when I start talking PIC, that gives a level of respect because it's a level of authority and responsibility. Anybody who's taken my classes, by the way, you'll all get this question on the 107. It'll start out with, who is responsible for it? And I said, you forget reading the rest of the question. Right? Yeah, the remote, the remote pilot in command, right? If anything goes wrong, it's his fault. And there can only be one of those for any crew, whether we're talking the navigator or the flight engineer. There's only one pilot in command in any operation. So I'm kind of befuddled as why we kind of let that go off and threw it over our shoulder. Maybe it's a myth, but
well, because you never have to fly a drone to be able to take the 107 pass,
No,
and so everybody's being able to get one of these 107s, and they're not.
Well,
good at what they do.
The cost of entry is extraordinarily low. In fact, when I started this, I was somewhat surprised because I knew what it took to get the other FAA tickets in my pocket.
So I think that you raise a very good point, and throughout the protocol certification manual, the remote pilot, it's very clear that it refers to the remote pilot. But this program is quite a large program, and this is the very first stage of this program. So you'll find that the remote pilot is definitely catered for within the manual, but the program as a whole, the Trusted Operator Program, is definitely called that to encompass not only the pilot, but as I said, the single pilot or the organisation as a whole. And I think that's, and also everyone who's in the team. And I think that it sits quite beautifully, and but you will be quite happy to see that it's very, very clear once you get into the document that you know, we talk about the remote pilot and the air boss and many other roles as well. So thank you for your question.
In all the years I was a controller, I never had an interest in being a pilot. if you become Part 107, does that make you a pilot if you have no interest in flying a drone?
Well, it is a certification, but you don't have to, go and fly, do you? Maybe some people want to take the Part 107 because they want to work as part of a team, makes them a better team player. But you don't have to, does it make you a pilot? I think that taking the Part 107 is a big responsibility. I think it's something that remote pilots should be very proud of. I, for one, would really like to foster this safety culture through the remote pilot community and have something that we're all very proud to be a part of. Our logo that is up on the top corner there, you can see the Remote Pilot Council. We have little wings on the side of what looks like a UAV or an engine, for very good reason. Being a pilot is something that's very special. And, I personally will draw your attention back to that slide where there is a picture of me flying in my 737 days or flying a UAV. I think we should be very proud that, yes, we're pilots. Let's take on that responsibility. It shouldn't be any less than whether we're flying a helicopter or a UAV. And let's cultivate that in our community.
Yeah, that was my second question. My first question was AUVSI. Is it the organization that's going to be the industry standard for remote pilots? And is there an enforcement piece? I mean, there's lots of people that are flying. And so you were clear to make sure that we knew that things do go wrong occasionally.
Yeah.
So where's the industry enforcement? Where's the enforcement piece of it?
Yes.
Does that come through this organization? Or are we going to rely strictly on the FAA to be the enforcement?
You raise an excellent question. I'm very glad you raised that because, what's a system or what's a certification if it's not correctly vetted? It's worthless, isn't it? And AUVSI is definitely not getting into the certification business, the auditing business, and the training business. So how do we know these top operators are actually following this beautiful manual that we've put together? So firstly, let me tell you by saying it's called the Protocol Certification Manual, PCM. And the reason for that is because it's not a manual of standards. It's actually a manual of protocols taken from standards that reference those standards, that people can go. It's almost like a menu that they can look at. And then if they want to learn more about the oil and gas standards because they're working on offshore, they've got all of those references for being a great remote pilot, and they can go and reference them. And then they've got other standards that they can reference. So that's the first thing. The second thing that's great about this manual is it also provides a certification body with an audit checklist that they can quickly and easily go through to make sure that the training school is actually training to those protocols and that they're certifying the pilots to those protocols. So where's the governance come in? And the governance comes in by the fact that we actually have quite a few certification bodies participating in the build of the PCM. So there are members that will be going out and they will actually be conducting the vetting or the certifying, the checking of the training providers. And the training providers obviously provide the certification. So it's an excellent question because certification is nothing unless it's properly vetted and it's transparent and it has integrity. So that was actually an excellent question.
So, I've got my first question. The first one is earlier in the meeting, you said this is predominantly an air group or just an air group, and not so much about surface robotics or what? Brian made
Well,
some.
that was, I proposed, and there's a lot of people around here that I got involved with these meetings, we're all UAV operator pilots, businesses.
So that means no robotics or what?
Well,
I'm
AUVSI,
not really here, is it kind of an exclusion, or is it just, if you fly, then that's great, if you don't, then,
no, Rick, I think what we need to be very clear on, obviously, AUVSI is everything unmanned, all
Yeah,
systems unmanned, and
that's-
so are our chapters, and we have our chapter president who's joined us, which we'll get him to say something in a second. But this particular meeting tonight is a meeting of the Remote Pilot Council, which is a group within the chapter, which is Brian is the leader of. So this is like a focus group where we do focus on what remote pilots want, what remote pilots need. We listen, what can we do, how can we make things better. So this particular group, and think of it that way, is it's called the Remote Pilot Council. So those of you who join, you can be a member of the Remote Pilot Council, but you have to be a member of AUVSI. Is the Remote Pilot Council, and you know, our meetings can be less formal. They can happen more often. We envisage that we're going to have workshops, outreach, education. We'll be working to make some other initiatives moving forward. One of course, our initiatives has been the Trusted Operator Program, which we're very proud to say is nearly finished its build. So the Remote Pilot Council is, as the name suggests, but you're quite right, AUVSI is everything unmanned. So, yeah. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it did, the Remote Pilot Council. I was just kind of like, you know, if you do robotics, then.
Oh, AUVSI is totally supportive. You know, we have, as I said, we have the robotics database. We support everything that's unmanned.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, this is a focus group on air operations. What are going to be the associated costs? Who's going to do the training? Is there going to be a renewal fee? Or if you're a member, does this all go with your membership?
There's definitely no doubt that there's member benefits, absolutely. But certification isn't free, obviously. So, you know, once the training organisations are actually rolling out this program, you'll probably find that because of the different levels, 1, 2 and 3, and just to increase your proficiency, you will find this program is designed to support the industry. So this program is designed to make the safety culture, the professionalism better. So this will be at a affordability level that will be available to everybody. Brian, did you, I know we're running short
I
of
have
time.
one more question.
And there's an online question.
Okay, so my question would be, the pilots or organizations who are not AUVSI members, can they still get the top certifications from the training body?
Yes.
And the follow-up to that is, the AUVSI members, will they get a discount on the certification? Has it been discussed?
That has been discussed, and we are going to announce some very exciting things at Exponential. And I can't say anything more because it's too exciting, but I can't. But yes, there's benefits. There will be benefits being a member, and conversely, there will be benefits getting top certification. That will be attracted to that as well. So we're all about supporting the industry and making this industry safe. And TOP is a vehicle to do that. So we want everyone to be part of that. So we're going to make it very accessible. Yeah.
Dara Betts is watching online. She's with her team. And she said she enjoyed the update on the top, and I'm looking forward to the RPC Summit at AUVSI Exponential. She said that you came down here to Corpus and started the AUVSI Day.
Yes.
She would like to know, when will the PCN go live and available to view?
Yes, absolutely. Well, if you, for everyone out there watching and here in the room, if you are in the middle of the PCM build that completes on the 20th of this month, It is a little bit like looking at the Death Star from Empire Strikes Back. It is very sparsely constructed. We've got a long way to go, but it is going to be a huge, powerful tool. I don't want to get too carried away on the Star Wars thing, but it's going to be a very powerful tool, and we are very excited. And yes, you will be able to see the PCM probably not much later after Exponential. So it is getting there. It has to go through quite a few processes before we release it, but if you're lucky enough to be on the steering committee and you can see this Death Star being built, it is coming together, and it does look exciting. We're looking forward to releasing the completed PCM manual soon after Exponential. So thank you for your question. And yes, big hello for everyone down there in Corpus Christi. You guys were great on JS Day, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.
I have one more follow-up on PCM, sorry. So I signed up to be on the steering committee member, right? And one particular group, training organizations, if I wanted collaborations from, let's just say, my colleagues, one or two, two here, I didn't read all the NTA
have to sign that confidentiality agreement. Yeah, and now it's obviously we're 2 weeks away from closing the books, and it's all done. So we've had 179 participants, 47 companies. Ryan is probably going to be saying, okay, the steering committee is open again for the PCM version 2. And we want everyone to put up their hands and take that forward. And the Trusted Operator program is more than just aircraft. Industries like ground and maritime. So it is a Trusted Operator program, and we are very excited to make more announcements at Exponential. So I think that people are sick of hearing my accent now. I'm not fully utilizing your membership, I urge you to fully utilize your membership. We have a robotics database, we've got Xfield, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, our advocacy committee is very active. Now you have a I've come down here because, as I said to you, one voice, one loud voice, we can make a difference there. So before my voice completely goes, did you want to introduce your chapter president?